Welcome to the ID10T podcast number 1131. Talking Dead is back live in studio even, which we haven't been for like a year and a half. So that's kind of a big deal. We're going to have the Walking Dead season 11 preview special. This is the final season of Walking Dead, but it's a really long extended season. So it'll be like another year before the series wraps up. A lot of road to cover, but Walking Dead new episodes start back Sunday, August 22nd, and Talking Dead will be after each one of those episodes for the next, actually because of the preview special, Talking Dead will be live for the next 9 weeks. So Talking Dead preview special August 15th, Walking Dead and Talking Dead back August 22nd, and that's on AMC, and then also on Monday nights you can head over to NBC to see new episodes of The Wall. So The Wall's back. So Sunday and Monday nights, Talking Dead and then The Wall on NBC. I think that's at 10/9 Central. I'm not upset about that. Shows on Sunday and Monday nights. So there you go. Thank you for listening to me promote my own things. But now let's talk about your promotional things. Events at ID10T.com for anything that you would like to share with the ID10T community. Corkboard. Like Michelle, who writes, I work for Enjoy the Ride Records. We recently released a new updated vinyl record from the awesome 70s show, Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp. There's new artwork inspired by James Bond vinyl release, colorful records, and a bonus track, which is a nice accompaniment to the original release from Lancelot Link and the Evolution Revolution. You can stream the album on whichever streaming platform you prefer, and episodes of the show, Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp, are also available online to watch. FYI, the writers of Get Smart and the Carol Burnett Show headed up this project, so if you've never watched it, check it out. Thank you so much for sharing, Michelle. Events at ID10T.com for anyone else who wants to get up on the corkboard. This episode is my dear friend Connie Britton, who is just a brilliant actor. Oh my God. And Connie is in just the coolest, best stuff. We have been friends for over 20 years, and it has been such a joy to watch her career just blossom in all these wonderful ways. Connie is currently on a show called White Lotus, which Lydia and I have been watching every week and love. That's on HBO Max. Connie was also on American Horror Story and Friday Night Lights. And it just has a million really fantastic credits, and is also, by the way, just one of the coolest, funniest people I know. And also, we're neighbors. So we actually are kind of joking at the beginning of the episode about how, we could have just walked across the street to do this, but we're just so in the mindset of doing Zoom that this was also a Zoom cast. So thanks to Connie for coming back to the podcast, and also White Lotus. I believe the first season finale is August 15th, Sunday, August 15th. I'm fairly sure that's the last episode, and that's all available on HBO Max. I think since we recorded this podcast, I believe it might have gotten a second season order, but I think it might be a different cast in a different location. So anyway, you can go enjoy White Lotus right now on HBO Max. Thank you to Connie Britton for this episode number 1131 of the ID10T podcast, which begins now.
Initiating ID10T protocol.
Constance Britton has entered.
This is ridiculous. What are we doing?
I mean, the fact
You're
that
like right up the street.
I mean, like pretty much across the street.
You're like literally across the street.
I know. This is our world. It's a digital world.
No, I refuse. I'm not buying it.
Well, listen, I love the bookcase in the background, by the way. That's a beautiful color of that shade of green is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad that you have like the Nightmare before Christmas, that Santa Claus behind you, all your Disney. Wait, where are you? Are you guys, you're in your downstairs?
Yeah, this is basically like, this would have been a basement, but now it's like the TV room. I know there's all sorts of like fun, like stuff.
Right. I remember that guy.
Yep.
So have you been sort of in the COVID of it all? Is that where you've been sort of doing all your work stuff?
I have like a podcast studio where people used to come, and so I do some of them from there. Zooms still, but then some of them from down here too. Yeah. I don't know. This is like a nice, comfortable room. I like the background, I
like the background.
I mean, I literally could just walk over there and look over the thing and just see your house.
I know. I could go out on one of the like terraces on the side, and we could just yell up.
I could just shout, How's work been going? We're enjoying White Lotus. I said we're enjoying. Ah, shit. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Speaking of White Lotus, by the way, we're way in. Lydia and I have been watching since we watch week to week.
You do? Like old school style?
Like old school style, which I really enjoy. I love watching week to week because
right?
It just gives you like something to like an appointment to look forward to. And when you have a show with your significant other, it's like, the show that we watch is on. Let's watch it. Like, that's been so much fun.
I know. I think we've really lost that. We've really lost the kind of value of that kind of appointment TV. I remember, and maybe it's just because we're old people, but I remember, like that was almost as much a part of it as just watching the actual show.
Yeah.
As like, what's going to happen this week?
Right.
Serialized TV. Hello, that's the joy of it. I get the fun of binging something, but I think the binge is a perfect example of just the degradation of our society that's happening.
Like everything,
we have access. We have access to everything. I put it in the same category as you and I Zooming with each other instead of seeing each other in person. And by the way, I get it. Like, it's still COVID, and it's the Delta variant is horrible right now. And I get but the thing is, everybody, what I don't like about this the most is that so many people love it. They're like, I'm never going back to my office again. Now we can Zoom. I don't ever have to, and listen, I've always flown to New York and done press junkets. And we don't have to do that anymore. We can just do it like this. But I'm like, oh, I see. This is just like, and the same with like binging television. It's sort of like, we don't have to make any effort. We can just plop down whenever we want and watch the whole thing.
Oh, the entire thing. What I realized is that with Zooming with people, going back out into the world, people are smelly, and I don't want to be around them, and I don't have to.
People are smelly, and I have to wear shoes.
I don't like shoes. I don't like to smell
it. If you know what I mean, and also, I don't like to have to wait for stuff.
I want it now.
Gratification.
Well, I do think there are some things. I think food. I think shows are becoming like fast food, which is that like food in general. Like, some things are fast food, you binge it all at once, but other things are like meals. Like, you want to take your time with it, and I think Walking Dead is a show that you want to take your time with. I think White Lotus is a show you want to take your time with because there's a lot going. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to process,
right.
And you'll like. But there are other shows that are just sort of fun. You watch them in a weekend, but then just like a fast food thing, you don't ever think about it again. But those meals where you're like, oh, remember that time we went to that one restaurant in New York and it was like a 5-course meal. Oh my God, it was so, and other things you just like to sit with more. So I do think there are degrees of binging versus not binging. But I don't think everything. I don't like to binge everything. I really do enjoy the rollout process. And also, to your point, like when we were growing up in the 1900s, you'd go to a picture house, you'd see a silent picture of a horse walking upstairs, and it was incredible.
Clomp, clomp, clomp.
That was it. And a guy on a piano playing the songs. But back in those days, the other thing that was sort of kind of unconsciously connective about it was the fact that you knew pretty much everyone was watching it at the same time. So there was this kind of unspoken communal experience that you knew that the next day, the infamous water cooler chat, you knew that they probably watched at the same time. And so you kind of had this connection point, and now like it's are you caught up? Are you caught up on? Have you been watching? Oh no, we're gonna so everyone's just kind of watching stuff at different whenever it's convenient to them.
Right, exactly, which takes away from that sort of communal experience of it, because yes, okay, we can in general talk about it, but ultimately we're not experiencing it all in real time at the same time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I think I thought you were in Canada, which is why it didn't occur to me. If I knew you were home, like we probably could have done this in person, and you would have been the first in-person podcast literally since like February of 2020.
I know. How crazy is that?
Which I don't even. It's had good things and bad things about it, which is we've gotten to have people on from all over the world, which but I do kind of miss just sitting face to face with someone and just like connecting like people are supposed to connect.
I know. I really do miss that, and it's so easy to not. It's so easy to sort of brush that aside and be like, yeah, but this is so convenient. It's so great. I didn't want to have to put my shoes on and walk up the hill to see.
It's hot outside.
It's so sticky. What if I was sweaty by the time I got there? That might have happened.
I mean, LA never used to be humid, and I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what.
Now there are mosquitoes.
What do you think that is? Why do you think it's so hot here? I don't know what's going on.
I mean, who knows about anything?
No idea.
I don't know.
It's a fluke. It's just a fluke.
Just a thing. We're just going through a thing. Yeah, I don't think
I'm sure it's going to pass.
It'll be fine.
I have to say, like, playing a role like Nicole Mossbacher, the role that I play on White Lotus, it's like, it's been a really great experience in getting into the head of like people who would just as soon like have have their own sort of denial going, right. And they create this whole,
this whole alternate reality where literally
alternate reality that like, it's just hot because it's hot. It's just hot because it's a hot year.
I don't have time to worry about that right now. I have meetings.
Yeah. I don't have to worry.
I have things to do. I feel like I remember when you went to shoot that, we were talking and you were like, oh, I'm going to Hawaii to shoot a show. Was that last year or was that this year? I can't remember when.
No, it was October. Well, first of all, I can't believe it's already like August.
I know.
Like, so yeah, it was October of last year.
Oh, wow.
We shot basically October through, like, we got home right before Christmas. And then we actually had to go back in February.
To do pickups?
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, and of course we're on a podcast. Nobody cares. But, well, we have some mutual friends that I was like, I'm going to be shooting in Maui, Jen and Pete. And they came to Maui for Thanksgiving. Meanwhile, I didn't realize I wasn't going to be able to see any human being because we were in such a bubble there.
Oh.
But they came to Maui anyway. They're moving there now, right?
Oh my God, I had no idea. Gosh, I haven't talked to Jen and Pete in so long, and I can't remember who was on. Someone was on. Oh, I think maybe it was Alan Tudyk who was saying that he was in sort of like a creative writing group with Pete.
Oh, yeah.
And they kind of like do these, I think they do these writing challenges, and they was like, oh my God, that's such a great idea. Because I didn't, it was a solid, at least calendar 14, 15 months before I felt any shred of creativity and like, oh, right, I like to make things. I just shut it down and hibernated for so long that I realize sometimes that's a thing. Like, oh yeah, you kind of have to make yourself right. So it doesn't always just come to you. Kind of have to sit down and get the process going again. Did you feel that way?
Yes. I mean, that's the thing, and frankly, when White Lotus came up, it was deep in the pandemic and I hadn't been doing anything, which was, it was actually, I found it very easy to fall into. Well, first it was a total panic. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this going to be? Like, we're not gonna be able to see anybody and we have to all hole up and, but then, once we sort of got used to that world, it was kind of, I don't know, it was almost too easy to just not continue working and doing all that stuff. And I have a production company that we've been working pretty steadily straight through and like developing various shows and things. But when White Lotus came along, it was kind of like, oh, I miss that. I want to do that again, but even now that work is kind of coming back, it's sort of like, I really want to do it, but I can feel the pull like, oh, but it's been so nice not quite having to travel so much and just being home with my son. And, so it's interesting there that there's a little, it feels a little different. And I feel like we have to almost be more conscious about like, I'm going to go do my creative thing because that's what I do. Damn it.
Yeah, but I feel like one of the benefits, at least, work-wise has been when kind of running around all over the country and, touring or going around and doing stuff, it wasn't really an option. It sort of, it really kind of helped, like, I feel like sometimes our identity is very Velcroed to our careers. And sometimes you just have to, and so it sort of made me realize like, oh yeah, no, it's important. I love working. It is important. I'm fortunate that I get to work, but also there's lots of life stuff that's really precious, that is very satisfying, that I don't want to just choose work stuff because I feel like I have to. It's like, oh, I'll do it because it's fun, but not because it's something I feel like I need to do it or I don't exist. Like I think that was nice.
I know, it's funny because I was just shooting in Toronto. And because they've had like a crazy quarantine there, like a 14-day quarantine when you get into the country, which they just lifted. And I had to shoot there for 3 weeks, but I was like, I don't think I can do this 14. If it's a 14-day quarantine, I'm not gonna be able to do this. And then they lifted the quarantine, but it was only for vaccinated people. So I couldn't bring Yobi, my son. And that was really hard because I had to leave him for 3 weeks and, go do this work. And so then I just got back from that this weekend. And then, now got a call like, oh, can you fly to New York next week and do Colbert? And meanwhile, I haven't done any talk shows in person in like 2 years.
Right.
Because of, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, of course I should do. But I'm like, wait, I've just been away from my son for 3 weeks. I'm doing a movie in LA the week after next in LA. And then I have to fly back to New York to finish this other movie that I was doing in Toronto. And I'm just like, I don't think I can go to do Colbert next week because I am freaking out about COVID right now and I can't leave my son.
You'd rather be with your son. I think that's really nice. How old is he now? Like 10?
He's 10.
Wow.
But it was like a big deal to make that decision because it's like, in my whole life, it's always been like, of course, you have to go do the press and you get on a plane and you fly to do it, even when you're in the middle of like shooting and all the things. And it's sort of like, it was interesting. It was a definite sort of moment for me where I had to really rethink how I make the decisions in my life.
Yeah, because I remember, I don't know, I feel it. I mean, I've I've known you for over 20 years now, and I remember when we first met. You know, that sort of group, and everyone in that group worked very regularly. By the way, you know, you and Lauren Graham, and you know, like this whole group of people was this kind of like working actor group, and Carla Gugino, and you know, right. But I do feel like there was a different sort of let me ask you, I'll put it this way, do you feel like there was a sort of a different tone and like, oh God, I hope I get this show, like it was I feel like we're chasing that sort of work, that stuff much more, but then sometimes if you're not conscious of it, you're always in that mindset, but you really do have to pretty regularly like reassess and go, am I still in that position anymore? Am I still that person? Do I still need, you know, because if you don't, you can always just think, you know, you're in that beginning stage where you got to do everything or you're going to fade away. And it's like, well, no. And those aren't the important things anymore.
No, right. I mean, I think that's exactly it. It's sort of at what point do we give ourselves permission to actually let other things be a priority other than this career that we worked so hard to create?
Right.
That's the thing. We all had to work so hard and, you know, be so focused and take so much rejection. You know, for every yes, there were 15 no's.
Yeah. And,
you know, so it's like that mindset is pretty hard to break free from, you know, even now. And it feels, I don't know, it feels empowering to do that, to kind of break away from that mindset, but also scary.
It is scary, but it also, but I think it's more empowering than it is scary, because ultimately you're choosing yourself. You know what I mean? Like you're choosing yourself over this external thing, you know, which none of us have any control over. And not only, like, the business was volatile before, but now with all the shifts to streaming and companies like consolidating and changing and flipping around, like now it's like, I don't know, but you know, like you consistently work on really like top shelf stuff, you know, like you really, I don't know. I hope you at least feel like you've made it, because from where I'm sitting, like you totally are like every time you're in something, it's some awesome, cool, interesting, critically acclaimed thing. And do you feel that now, or do you still feel like, I don't know, I'm still out there kind of scrapping?
No, I mean, I do. First of all, that's very nice of you to say. And I do feel, I feel several things. I feel really fortunate. Like to some degree, I feel like I've gotten really lucky and ended up on things that have, you know, been what, as you describe them. But I mean, really, frankly, for me, a lot of it goes back to Friday Night Lights, because Friday Night Lights was, you know, nobody knew it was going to be what it was going to be. And it was a real long shot. And I really didn't think I was going to do that show, because I didn't want to play the wife of a coach on a football show. And, you know, I thought that was...
It's not about football, Connie. That's never
I know, but like, nobody knew that, you know, it felt like, to me, it felt like TV death.
Right.
You know, it's like, okay, I'm signing away 6 years of my life to play this supporting character on the sidelines, literally.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, that show ended up being, in so many ways, really rewarding and set the bar really high. And, you know, and then these other opportunities came along that I have felt so grateful for. But also, you know, it's funny, like, when I grew up, I watched TV all the time when I grew up. Like I loved TV, but at that time, like when we grew up, like there like TV was very separate from movies, and it felt like if you were a TV actor, you were very pigeonholed.
Yep.
And you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I always, like, when I had the audacity to dream about being an actor. Thank you, Barack Obama, for that one. You know, I would think to myself, well, I really love TV and I want to work on TV, but I don't want to be pigeonholed. You know, like I want to, you know, you got to be real careful about that. But of course, at the beginning, you just want to get a job. And, and I did love working on TV. Anyway, so after Friday Night Lights, I really was like, okay, I have to do something really different. Every choice I make from now on has to be like a stretch in some way. I have to like be stretching myself. I have to be taking a risk. I have to be doing something that feels out of my comfort zone. Like I haven't done it before, because that's the only way I'm not going to be pigeonholed, and, and so I think in that way, I kind of set the bar in a pretty specific way for myself. But then the other way that I think I learned a lot about what I wanted to do from Friday Night Lights was that show was a good example of how you can reflect an audience back to itself in a way. People really, it's weird. I love when an audience feels seen by watching a show, and it made me realize like, oh, we can play roles that actually can have a cultural impact. We can play roles that actually, I can play female characters that will actually make women that could possibly make women know themselves better or ask questions about themselves or their lives or whatever, like we can have the power to do that in the roles that we play. And so I think that's become something that I look for a little bit too now when I make the choices about what I want to do. And so yeah, like I feel I am pretty specific about what I'm looking for to do. But I also feel like I've been really lucky.
Well, but I think it's easy to get lucky once or twice, but I think that they sustained, when it happens over and over again, it's like, that's not luck, that's not luck. That's dedication and talent and good choices. And, anyone can get a break, can get that first break, It's like, oh, you're in a cafe and someone's like, I'm a producer. You got a good face, but let's put you on it, and anyone can do that. But to have it sustain over and over again, like that's not an accident, because it just, I don't think it works that way. I don't think people just get lucky over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. You know what I mean? I think it is kind of, I think it's more conscious than I think maybe some people even realize, because you certainly make choices, but you also make micro choices that you're not even aware of that put you in the zone of kind of where you want to be and what you want to do. So I don't know. It is that shift from, I just want to work on something. And that's the other thing too of turning stuff down, is that you also feel the guilt of like, so many people would want to do this and I don't want to take it for granted. And so am I a jerk for saying this is something I don't want to do? But on the other hand, maybe someone who really wants it should have it.
Right. And like nowadays, I'll get offered something and it's like, oh, it could be really cool, but I'm not really sure that it's exactly like, it doesn't fit exactly within the parameters of what I want to be doing. And so that nowadays I have to ask myself, am I going to feel like shit when I see somebody else play this part? And I'll be like, oh, I should have done it. So I have to ask myself that question a lot. And usually for the most part, I can, if I'm okay to walk away from it, I can say like, yeah, I want somebody should go do it who is like so excited to do it. And like, Godspeed, like I hope it is everything that they want it to be,
Yeah. And I also, I mean, and you can kind of sort of, you can really pre-think everything to death. But the thing is, you never really know. I mean, like, there are some things you think are going to be the greatest thing in the world and you do it and it's like, no, that was fine. And then other things where you're like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden it just like blows up and becomes a thing, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize how sort of like what you said with Friday Night Lights, I didn't realize how special this actually would be because I had this very limited perspective, this very outside perspective on it. So I don't know if there's any there's no real rules. I mean, I guess you can have a gut about stuff, but even that, like there's no guarantee. So I guess you really just have to pick stuff based on, does it seem like I'd have fun doing it? If yes, I'll do it. If not, I won't do it. And I don't know how else to really pick stuff.
Right. And and like, will I grow from doing it? You know, I mean, with Nashville, it was like, you know, in retrospect, that was a crazy decision for me to make. Like, I just adopted my son and then to move to Nashville, and it was such an ambitious show. But I was like, oh, you know, this is an opportunity. I don't know if I'll ever in my life again have the opportunity to play like a country music singer.
Right.
You know? And so I was like, I think I have to do that. And, you know, it was challenging, but it was worth doing because, and that's where, you know, even if the thing doesn't turn out the way you want it to turn out, like even if it's not the huge hit that you want it to be, for me, I can feel, if I really feel like I have a very specific reason for doing it, then whatever the outcome, I actually can be okay with that. You know?
Yeah, I think that's all. Again, you just can't control. And also, you know, doing a thing because you think it's going to be a hit is not necessarily the best reason to do something. I mean, unless you sort of feel like, well, I'm at a point in my life where I really don't want to have to put too much thought into my job, and I'd be happy to just work on a procedural show that'll just be on for 100 years. I go to work, I come home at 5 or whatever, I don't think about work anymore, I have job security, and I can focus on this other thing. That's totally reasonable too. But, you know, thinking about things in terms of whether or not stuff's going to be a hit, I just feel like it's going to be a constant, you're just going to constantly have a knot in your stomach because that's just not, it's not anything that we can control.
There is literally no way to know what's going to be a hit. There's no way. And there are so many people paid so much money to watch the algorithms and read the data and, you know, do the testing to figure out exactly what's going to be a hit. And none of them know anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the most fascinating part of it. And I think that's the part that's like, in a way, freed me up quite a bit to really just stay true to what I want to be doing, because there's just no way. You can't know. And the only thing the only thing I can know is, oh, I see something in this role that I haven't done before. I see something in this role where I can stretch in a way that is going to put another color on the screen, you know? And this is a writer or a director who I'm going to learn something from. Mm-hmm. This is a group of actors that I'm going to learn something from. This is a world that I haven't inhabited before. You know what I mean? It's just gotta be that. And I feel frankly very fortunate because I've just never been in this business. I've never had that sort of outward view as my approach to this business. I've never looked at it from the outside in because I'm just not good at that. Some people really are. There's some people who really have that business savvy mind, and they can I've been working on this movie with Mila Kunis, who by the way is a dream. She's such a sweetheart, and she's married to Ashton Kutcher, and they are these incredible savvy business people and are doing amazing things. She was telling me about how, I don't know if you know this, but Ashton decided a few years ago that he wanted to dedicate himself to ending child pornography. And so they started this incredible organization called Thorn, which is basically developing technologies with law enforcement around the world to basically get into all of these sort of like underworlds of like this, the internet, blah, 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 to understand how it works and to stop it. I mean, it's just astounding what they're doing. But, I feel like they really have this incredible way of looking from the outside in. And it's been really productive and really lucrative for them. And I just don't have any of that. Like I was talking to her while we were doing this movie, and I'm just like, tell me about cryptocurrency again.
I mean, I've talked to people who are really into it, and there is still a little bit of a, well, I mean, I can sort of explain it to you, and it is just a mindset. And I'm sorry to say I don't really have that either. But if someone came up to me and they said, yeah, here's a business plan for this, this digital currency thing, I'd go, oh, okay, sounds great. Like, I don't really know what to look for. I don't know, if someone really described cryptocurrency to me, I might be like, let's change it all, and then it sort of reminds me of this old episode of The Simpsons where they go to Itchy and Scratchy Land and all these signs are like, buy Itchy and Scratchy money. So Homer gives them like $5,000, but then none of the stores take the Itchy and Scratchy money. I feel like that would be me, and so I don't, some people are just really gifted and have the creative sense and the business sense, and I don't, I think the business sense to me, it just, maybe it'll skip a generation, if we have kids, maybe my children will have it. But to me, I just like to make stuff that's, like creative stuff, and all the business stuff just kind of gives me a rash. Like, I don't know I don't know what to invest in. When people say like, oh, I never would have thought that's a very successful thing. I never would have thought to invest in that thing. Good for you.
Right. I mean, what are they called? FSTs for
NFTs.
Right. Okay. NFTs are things that don't actually exist. Right?
They do and they don't. They do and they don't. They exist in a way, but just differently.
Right, Chris, right.
So, yeah, I know, like a couple months ago, people were saying like, oh, I want to give you this presentation on NFTs. And, I have a lot of artist friends who were into it, and it sounded really great for them because apparently, every time an NFT sells, you can track who's gotten it. So the original artist, from what I understand, gets basically like a royalty payment from the future sales of their thing, which is so wonderful for artists,
right.
But
the person who owns it just owns it online, right?
Basically, yeah.
It's not an actual thing that you own, right?
No, it's not an actual. Well, it's not like a tangible thing. It's
right.
not like an in real life sort of a thing. Oh my God, I feel like we sound like we're 100 years old. It's like it's like why I bought an NFT.
Are all your listeners turning us off right now? Because that's fine. I'm fine with that.
No, because why? I'll bet some of them, and maybe even some of them are. I don't know, but I think there are also some of them who, in conversations, would talk about these things like they knew stuff about it. But I think secretly are like, God, I don't know what I'm talking about. I feel like everyone knows this thing that I don't know. You know what I mean? Like this,
yeah.
It like there's this sort of technology party that I think a lot of us really wish we were a part of. And it's like, I'm trying. I think my brain, at a certain point in your life, your brain, the RAM in your brain just gets full. Like there's just no room, no more processing space. You get the error message in front of your eyes when people start telling you about a new thing. And I think we just have to be comfortable with that.
I know. I think I'm fine with it. And, frankly, getting back to our original point, it's full. That's not where I function. That's not where I function at my highest level. Clearly, obviously. So therefore I just defer to what I do know, which is the things that my value system. And that's it, and that's how I make my choices. And that's how I like live my life. And that's how I play my roles. You know what I mean? And I'm probably not going to be like a trillionaire, but it's okay.
But that's fine. Like, even that idea just seems so silly to me. It's like, A, who needs that much money? And B, the more you do, the more you take on, the more responsibilities you have, the more stresses. I mean, like, you don't just get more of one thing, you get more of everything, It's like, yes. Sure, you might get the thing you want, but you don't realize all the other things that unlocks that come along with it. And are you willing to make that agree? You have to understand. It's just sort of like the clause in every genie bottle wish. Oh, I wish I had this. And then like all these things go sideways. Like, I wish I had known all of the downsides. I just saw
Yes.
I just feel like we
Every fairy tale has been written about it. We learned about all
exactly.
Of children, and yet we don't learn.
Everything's a fucking Twilight Zone episode. And I think we just don't always know what's best for us, and we think something is going to solve our lives if we just get this thing, and then you get it and you're like, oh, okay, well, not only was that fun for like a minute, but then it brought all these other problems, or it just wasn't the way that I thought it was going to, didn't fix so I really, the older I get, the more I'm just like, just try to enjoy the day, be thankful that you're okay, your wife's okay, your mom's okay, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and then what there's, because everything else is in your imagination. The past is in your imagination, the future's in your imagination. You have this moment now, maybe enjoy it because it won't be here.
I know, that's so deep. Oh my gosh, look at you being so deep.
Come on, what's going on?
Made you profound.
I don't know. I just just when you got a lot of time, it's just one of the things that we didn't have for a long time because we were so busy. And busy doesn't necessarily mean productive. Like, we're just there. Everything was just filled with stuff, and then you didn't really get a lot of time to reflect. Yes. And now we've had a lot of time to reflect and like, what's important, And
it is very true.
You with Yobi and wanting to be with him, which is wonderful, and me with Lydia and wanting to, like, I don't want to travel all the time anymore. I just want to hang out with my wife and enjoy our lives. Like, I'll work because I enjoy it, but not because I feel like, I have to. I have to do this thing. I feel like we spend so much time trying to make the entertainment business like us, and then it's like it's not even a real thing, and it's so like mercurial, and it doesn't. Who cares? Like,
it's an NFT or whatever. It's
NFT. The
entertainment business is an NFT.
You solved it. You solved it. I don't know. And so I am impressed by the Kunis Kutchers of the world who can spot something, and because obviously they're, they understand that, and they can do things that are socially responsible with their business and not just business for business sake. And, it's like the business stuff is very, I'm fascinated by it, but I also know, like, well, how much of my creative energy do I have to stop and fully try to understand investing and how to vet, new businesses and startups and have the vision. I feel like if I did that, I could do it. It'd be a choice. I don't know if I'd be good at it, but it would also take me away from things that I know I already enjoy doing. So I feel like I'm okay just going like, I'm really just not going to be like a big investor, and that's okay. I don't need to be.
Yeah. I mean, listen, also there is something to the old dog not learning new tricks. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I say that, and as soon as I say that, I'm like, although actually, this, like I said, I've started this production company. It's been a really amazing process and journey and learning experience. And I hope that it's going to be a whole other element to my life and this career that I started so many years ago. So it's like, I do feel like we do continue to grow and to like, expand ourselves. It's just choosing how we want to do that, and the world is shifting so radically that we are presented with a lot of choices. We have to keep up with it. I mean, even, me starting a production company now, I'm doing that in an industry that has changed so much that I have to like figure out how the industry even works right now, because it's all changed so dramatically. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but also starting a production company is, I think you used the right word. It's an expansion. You're expanding. It's something you already understand the basic, like you already understand probably more than you even realize, and so you're extending an experiential set that you already possess, as opposed to like, I want to learn, banking, or I want to learn this, where it's a whole brand new, discipline set of rules, like a whole other, this already ties into, like what
Yeah.
Like what has been some of the most interesting things that you've learned with your production company so far?
Well, I think first of all, how hard it is to get a show made.
Isn't it amazing that anything ever gets made with as many shows as there are?
It's actually amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually astonishing. And also that there's just so much to navigate, and there's like this circuitous kind of maze like business that you have to navigate and get through in order to actually get a show on the air, and I mean, I've done shows where I felt, I've often felt and had the experience of feeling like a show really works when like everything falls into alignment, from the top down. I mean, I'm talking about from the TV executives in the studio down to the director, down to the producers, down to the actors, down to the craft service people, like all of those things just come into alignment. And it's like this really surprising, amazing experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize that is also true even in the process of trying to get something made. It's like letting all of these pieces come together and somehow journey down the river. I'm making a river analogy. And, journey down the river to get to this, being on the air. And it's funny. I mean, actually talking to Mike White about White Lotus, because, he's been through all of that and had all the disappointments and all the craziness and upset. And then HBO calls him up one day and they're like, we need content. We know that you are a prolific writer. Can you write something real fast that's one location and a finite number of actors and do that for us? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it in Maui. I'm going to write it in a month. And like, we're going to,
oh my God.
When does that happen? So, you know what I mean? There's always the exception to the rule, which you also have to like always account for that as well. But yeah, for the most part, it's been just learning how things really get done.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And things can sit for years, and then you think it's going, and then an executive leaves and a new executive comes in, and then the project's dead, even though you were almost at the finish line with it.
Yes.
And you can't, and it's funny to me how the standard path, and it's the same with acting too, like the audition path, you go to auditions and it can feel like, God, I'm not getting anything. And then someone that you worked with on a thing once is working on another thing, and they just ask you to be in that thing. And it doesn't happen the standard way, or like pitching. Right. You get the pitch together, you get the group together, you do the pitch to the studio, the pitch to the network, it gets greenlit, you shoot it. It's sort of like what you said with White Lotus, where it's like, here's this other situation that the problem that we're trying to solve, and it's all the back doors, because it feels so rare to me but you kind of have to march the standard path in order for those other things to kind of reveal themselves.
Yes, and that's such a great point, and that's what just was occurring to me too. It's like, it's almost like, because I think I did this in my career as well, it's almost like you have to understand how the system works, so that then you can figure out how to break the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you have to understand how it works, and be so entrenched in your own sense of value and like what's guiding you and what your intentions are, what you want. And then you putting all that together, then you got to it's almost like you have to figure out your way around it, as opposed to, I don't think that I have, for the most part, as you described, like, I think a lot of the things that I've done have been pretty like the things that have been particularly rewarding or successful have been pretty fluky, and it was sort of like a diversion from what the path is supposed to look like, or what the steps that you're supposed to take. So that's kind of interesting.
Speaking of other disciplines, I wouldn't mind talking for a few minutes about house restoration, because I know, are you done with yours? Or is it, I feel like the face you're making is like half.
Okay. Here's what's happening. I'm getting there. I've been using COVID as an excuse now for quite a while, because it's like we did move in here during COVID, for sure. But of course it took us like 2 years to like finally get all the freaking work done that we had done. So then now the interior stuff has just sort of like been like dribs and drabs, but I'm very close to that. But I really, really want to get the outside stuff done. And so now I finally, thanks to Lauren Graham, she recommended this landscape guy who's amazing. So I think I'm finally going to get the outside done. And once I get the outside done, I'm going to be like, done. Be pretty psyched about it.
That's nice. I think I have.
That's nice.
Well, it is nice. It's the done part where I'm like, oh, that's nice. But I feel like I love it so much, the process of it. And I feel like to a degree, Lydia's like, we should be done. And I'm like, I know, but wouldn't it be cool to, because we watch all of the HGTV shows, and I just, and I follow a lot of accounts on Instagram that are like house renovation, or, and it is sort of a loop that you can constantly, it can never end if you want it to never end.
What else do you have to do there?
I will use your term, dribs and drabs. It's just little bits of things,
Dribs and drabs. Good God, I'm old.
No, I don't. No, listen, I totally know what you mean. So I'm old, but but it's the architecture and trying to honor the architecture and trying to do things that are interesting and restorative and make it extra special, and paying attention to the details. I love that it's basically like an art history project that also has this utility of then you get to live in it. It's just like a painting that you can live in, and that's fun.
And I will say that, because I get a little like, defensive / embarrassed that it's taking me this long to like get this, to get it done. But yes, in the same way as you are saying, it is sort of this ongoing project. But I do think that trying to be true, and you and I both have Paul Williams houses, and trying to be, I feel a real sense of, awe and responsibility about that. And so I do really take the time to want to make choices that feel, as my friend Liz said, she's like, oh yeah, Paul would approve,
that they would honor the intent in the architecture and the
integrity
home.
Of the house.
Yeah.
And the period of the house,
Absolutely. I always say that it really breaks my heart when people will buy like an old Spanish or an Italian at home, and then they like a Spanish colonial home, for instance, and then they just gut it and make it like super modern inside, and it's like, oh, you didn't want. Why didn't you just buy a glass cube if that's what you wanted? Why do you?
Yeah, I know. Why would you do that?
And we watch a lot of like shows from England or Ireland, like restoration shows, and started watching some Italian ones. And one of the things that we've noticed is that they will often super modernize stuff inside. And I realized it's because to them, old buildings are just old buildings because they're so ubiquitous that it's, Woody and I see them as like, oh my God, how could you take like an old Gothic style home and then want to put like marble on the floor, or whatever. But if you see that all the time, it's like, yeah, it would probably be refreshing for you to,
right,
like put some sort of a modern spin and integrate it somehow. And that's part of the artistry of the architects there, is like, having the facade of a house be one thing, but the back of the house is this totally modern. But we just, I think we just want to live in an old house that feels like an old house.
Well, and also the flip side of that too is, sometimes, or you see these like Parisian houses that were built in the 1700s, and you see, these fabulous, designers or whomever living in these places where the walls are cracking, and you can actually see the layers of paint from, centuries, and it's been left to, that's the integrity of that has remained. And the people live in that, I remember visiting a friend who years ago who lived in Italy, and he was living in this like 500-year-old like Tuscan villa in Florence that was not, he was an artist. Like it was not done. It was not fancy, but I loved that about it. It was sort of like very much what it was.
Right.
And then they just like, set up a beautiful, long, grand, like, wooden dining room table, and that was their dining room. And it made me, to the point where sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to like get some like crumbly, amazing tile from like the mid 1800s. And, I did that in my powder room downstairs. Cause I'm like, I love that look. And it feels like it's sort of true, and yet you don't want to like replicate. I don't know. It's a funny thing.
This is why you got to watch Escape to the Chateau,
right? And then also, like if you think about Paul Williams, he did so many different. He did so many different styles,
different eras. Yeah, he evolved every decade.
He captured really all of the various different styles, and so I feel like he actually allowed himself to be really free with his choices. Mm. So sometimes I think about that too, and I'm kind of like, okay, it's okay. I like to mix eras,
Absolutely, and sort of seeing, like you said, seeing the different styles throughout the different decades, and just like watching a master artist at work play with different styles and evolve, and not just do one thing, and they're all really unique and beautiful in their own ways. Like it's like that to me that's art. It's not just picking one thing and like, well, that's all you do. And that goes back to what we were saying and what you were saying also about like never wanting to do the same thing twice, and always wanting to evolve, and always wanting to, I think that's really just sort of the best that we can do, is just keep challenging ourselves and sort of and following that. And by the way, I have to say, and I don't, I haven't really been deep diving into the story of what White Lotus is, in case people aren't caught up, because I don't want to spoil anything. But everyone on the show is so good, because every character is so well defined and unique, but grounded and interesting, and their interplay, and the performances on the show are just so next level.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like every single person on that show is just incredible. And yeah, that's the thing that's so amazing about it, is really each character is so intricately unique. And even though you could certainly generalize about kind of the satirical nature of the storytelling, but I think, and truly that's a tribute certainly to Mike's writing, which is astounding, but also to the performances of every single person on the show, like without exception, like every single person just created such a specific living character, but when you have great writing, you can do that.
And I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but is this, was it just designed just to be one season?
I mean, I think initially it was. I don't know. I'm actually having lunch with Mike White today, so I'll go ask him.
Would you ask him for me? Could you just say my friend Chris really wants to know?
It says a quick question.
Quick question. You don't know this guy, but he and his wife and his mom are all watching the show, and it's really important if you could just could you just call HBO right now and see? Well, and I go back to the, what you talked about, like television versus film, when we were growing up. And when we were growing up, there was a thing called the miniseries, which was limited, but generally only like 2 or 3 episodes, like 2 or 3 like movie length episodes. Yeah. But to see the evolution of what we now call the limited series, which is not even like a series in a traditional series when we were growing up was like fucking like 24 episodes or 22 episodes, or at least 13. But now it's 8 or 10, and it's kind of occupies this space between film and series.
Yeah.
So it's like you could shoot it for about the same length of time as a film, but it's 10 hours and not 2 hours, but it could just be one season, or it could be another cast. Well, you worked on American Horror Story, too.
I was about to say, who we have to thank for that?
Yeah.
The modern day, the present day version of what you're describing as the
American Horror Story
was season 1 of American Horror Story.
Yeah.
And that was like, I remember sitting down with Ryan, and he's like, that was when I was like in this, like, I just finished Friday Night Lights. What am I going to do next? It's got to be so different, whatever. And he was like, and I, unlike you, my friend, like horror, not my thing. I get scared.
Yeah.
But, he was like, this is going to be so different than what you've just been doing. And you just are going to sign on for 1 year. And then it's going to become this anthology. I mean, frankly, I think he always intended for it to be an anthology series, to go on in different incarnations. But he really, really like gave shape to that idea. And now that's a lot of what we're watching now.
It is so brilliant because it takes out that thing that you mentioned earlier about signing on for 6 years, which was the standard before. And it's like, sure, if you either love the show or you are just starting out, of course you're going to go, yeah, sign me up. I just want to, but the more you kind of work, that you realize that 6 years is a commitment, which if you can't do anything else. So removing that from the equation of being like 1 year, that's it.
People don't realize. I mean, really, every TV show I ever did until American Horror Story, you basically, and for the most part, especially in the beginning, you have to audition for it. You have to win the role. But before you even do that final audition, you have to sign pages and pages of paperwork, which include you saying that you will commit yourself to whatever this series becomes. You have nothing to base that on other than perhaps a pilot episode that you've read. Mm-hmm. You have to commit to 6 or 7 years where you cannot get out. So whatever that show is going to become, you have to commit to that before you even get the part.
Right.
And so the anomaly, the sort of brilliance of suddenly it's like, and by the way, I remember talking to Ryan Murphy about American Horror Story, and I'm like, I'm too scared to do. He's like, that's okay. You just do 1 year. You don't have to do it for like 6 years. I'm like, what? And I remember sitting and talking to him, and he had this other role in the thing. And he's like, yeah, I dream of I dream of Jessica Lange playing that role. And I'm thinking to myself, Jessica Lange, I'm not going to play this supporting role on the show American Horror Story. But, oh yeah, she did, because she didn't have to sign her life away to do it.
Right.
He was true to his word and made it a fucking fantastic role for her. And then she continued to go on in various versions of the anthology series, but she had choice in that. And that's the brilliant, you can, with these limited series, you can get amazing actors who aren't necessarily going to be willing to sign away 6 or 7 years of their lives. Like that's obsolete now.
And then because of that, then we got Betty and Joan as well.
That's right. That's right. We sure did. Yes.
Yeah, it is that kind of sort of outside the box innovative thinking that I feel like is so important now because, you know, before at least the business had an existing structure, but the sort of the beauty and the scary part now is the structure is I don't know what anymore. It can be anything. Shows don't have to be a certain length. They don't have to be a certain number of episodes. They don't have to come out at a certain time. There's no pilot season. There's no real like fall season outside the networks anymore, but even that's kind of up in the air. And so all the rules are constantly changing. And so it takes someone with the vision and insight to come along and do that and go, you know what? This old system is dumb and broken. What if we just did it this way? Oh, I don't know if I guess there's no reason that we can't do it that way, you know? And so it is a scary but magical time because a lot of the existing walls have come down and there is a lot of room for innovation. And that to me is what's exciting about all this. And certainly, you know, having a production company, it's just sort of a license to be like, you know, what can we create with, you know, this new paradigm where so much more is possible than was ever before.
Yes. And now, and that's, you know, I mean, you know, even with the production company, it's sort of like, I feel like this has been a steep learning curve. Like I've spent the last couple years, like, okay, learning how the business really works, how all this stuff really works. Now I have to figure out how to think outside the box and do the thing that is what is exciting about the business right now, you know, which is, okay, I understand the structure. Now I have to see how to like break through the confines of that structure, you know?
Yeah. And it's so funny because when Ryan, I bet you when Ryan first had that idea, obviously he had the freedom at FX to do it the way that he wanted to do it. But I'm sure I'll bet if he had pitched that to other networks, they would have been like, no, what are you talking about? You know, if the show is successful, you want everyone to be on it as long, you want to lean into it as much as possible. And then, of course, after he did that and it was wildly successful, other people are like, we should do that.
Yeah. You know? Oh, right. Oh, of course. Now everybody wants to do limited series. You got a limited series idea? You got a limited series idea? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because now they can get big actors, you know, because, you know, like True Detective, you know, it's like so many things have come along that were, and also from the acting side, it's, you know, you get a little bit of the feeling of a series without the sort of the confines of a series. You get to delve into your characters more than just for, you know, like a 90-minute movie. But then you get to work with really amazing people who wouldn't otherwise be available. So I do think that it is sort of like, you know, the golden child right now is the limited series in this business.
I agree. And you're right. Because I mean, what I love about TV and serialized TV is that you really get to go on a journey with the character. A character really gets to, you get to evolve a character. And I love that because we all do that in life and it really allows for that. Whereas in film, there's like a very, you know, very finite beginning, middle and end. But yeah, so in limited series, you get to have that evolution, but also not be stuck on it forever.
Well, as we're winding this down, two things that I want to say is number one, when are we going to put in the pulley system so we can like borrow sugar or like ketchup or whatever, and then just like back and forth, or like a pneumatic tube system where you could just like, you know.
Let's do the research on that. I think it's really just about, I think it's just going to be about the economics. Let's figure out which is the cheaper option.
What if I really devoted time to figuring out the economics of building a pneumatic tube system under the ground to shoot, or just a piping system that kind of goes over the street?
Yeah.
You know? You know, because I worry about pulley system
or actually maybe and Yobi would actually like this if we had some kind of like giant cannon that we could shoot like butter out of.
Oh, like a t-shirt cannon, but for condiments.
Exactly. So it would actually just go up into the air and then land perfectly in your back terrace.
Or like if I was making a sandwich, I needed mustard, and you could like shoot the mustard cannon, and I could just hold, and you could hit the sandwich.
Oh yeah.
Or if it got on me, I could just like smear the bread on my face or whatever, and just get it that way. Because it'd probably be kind of hard to, accounting for wind resistance and whatnot, to shoot mustard, over a long distance.
Yeah, I think it would probably make more sense just to shoot the whole bottle.
Yeah, I guess so. That or Instacart.
See, this is the problem. Or Instacart.
We don't ever have to leave our houses.
Now you're no longer communicating with your neighbor, are you?
I could just become a spoiled jerk and never leave. I want mustard now. It's on demand. I demand to have this mustard now.
Faster, Instacart. I'm going to pay extra so I get it in 10 minutes.
Just tie it to a pigeon and have them drop it in my hands. I don't want to have to put forth any effort. Oh, I got to walk out of the front door? Oh, come on. God. Wow. Rude. This podcast, I know we were trying to schedule it a while ago, and then schedules got crazy, and then I was actually writing you a text yesterday about how much we enjoy your show and you on it. And then our podcast booker reached out and was like, it's totally last minute, but Connie's publicist reached out. Do you want her on for him? I was like, I was just going to text her. Yes. So this all worked out serendipitously.
I love it. I know. I'm so glad. Yeah. Cause I just got back from Toronto. I'm like, okay. And also I think I was feeling guilty for not going to do Colbert. Well, I can try to
you know what? It's not like you won't be able to go do it when it's more comfortable and you feel better about it. It's like yes, I'm sure it'll be a blast, but also like the peace of mind that you would have to sacrifice to do it. It's like everyone understands right now, and we're all no one's going to fault you for that. I think it's a beautiful choice and also I love seeing people make human choices over like business decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always feel like when people say like, this is a business decision or it's just business, I feel like, oh, is that just a thing you tell yourself because you're making a not great decision, but you still want to be able to sleep at night?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a little teeny tiny piece of you dying inside. Just a
little bit, just a teeny little,
one little
molecule,
one little molecule.
Yeah, it's being chewed away by moths in your soul.
Right, exactly.
Well,
all right. Well, I got to go have lunch with Mike White. So
please tell Mike. I don't know him, but tell him I said hi. And I hope to see you in person very, very soon.
Me too. I'm going to have you guys over. I mean, it's weird because we can do that now, I guess. Although now it's like, I don't know.
We can hang out outside. There's nothing wrong with that.
We can definitely hang outside. I'll have you guys over. It's not, I haven't done my renovation off on it. So.
ID10T scanning complete. Enjoy your burrito.